I am so thrilled that you all are taking your time to listen to this. Many of you may know, both Dr. Vaughn and I had COVID. I got at the beginning of August. And the reason I wanted to do this webinar was I've had, oh my goodness, like every patient that comes into my office is like, Dr. O'Keefe, I have questions about it. So I thought, I can sit and I can talk to one person at a time over and over and over and over and over again. Or I could try to get the message out to others, because the one thing that I walked away from was I was so grateful for the knowledge that I had. And I believe without a shadow of a doubt, it got me, not just got me through, but got me through quickly in flying colors. I have recovered 100%. I have absolutely no symptoms post that. COVID is not nice. You can't be nice back. And that's what we're going to talk about. Some of the things you'll, I'm sure, already know, and some might have a different take. I have muted everybody just because I've got about 50 people on here. If you're just joining, you will be able to ask questions. I'll open up the chat and I'll open up the mics again. I can unmute you if you have a question, whatever you like to do. It should take me about 30-35 minutes to get through what I have to say. And then we can spend 15-20 minutes either chatting or just ask questions, and I'll be happy to get to what I can. All right, so you guys ready to go? All right, here we go. So COVID-19, didn't really know what to do. My initial tagline I wanted to do was, my experience, what I learned, and how it can help you. It was just too long. So the question is, what can we do about it? We hear a lot in the news. This is all probably things you know already, but we're going to just try to make sure everybody's on the same page. And so we know that COVID is a virus. We know that it transmits via droplets, okay? It attaches to the mucosas on your eyes, your nose, your mouth. What they're finding now, especially with the Delta variant, is that the Delta variant is stickier, and it gets on the back of the throat primarily and hangs out there for a while until it can get down into the respiratory. And what viruses do is they can't replicate by themselves. So what they do is they have to get our cells, hijack them, and make our cells, reproduce the virus. So when we have something like a Delta variant sticking on the back of the throat, we know it tends to be there. Real important to address that as you're out and about. Whether you are vaccinated, whether you're not vaccinated, it's still happening. People who are not vaccinated are still getting it, and therefore can still spread it. So I recommend one of two throat sprays: Silvercillin, that's from Designs for Health, Biocidal throat spray. Love the line, great antibacterial. I have my husband carry it around with him, and when he's in and out, I do the same. When in and out and about, spray your throat on a regular basis, because again, we're trying to mitigate the risks. So what do you do with it? Now, I have a bunch of protocols I put together. If you guys want them, all you need to do is call the office. Kendall will email it out to you. It's not a problem at all. So if you like a slide, take a picture, but you'll be able to get anything that I put out tonight. Okay, so mechanism of action. How does COVID do its thing? As I mentioned earlier, all viruses, in order for them to replicate, they have to hijack our cells. Okay, when they do that, then they can kind of get it replicating. Cells get destroyed in the meantime. And the problem with COVID, as it's kind of building up to its big ta-da. It takes 2 to 14 days after exposure. 5 days is the most common before a symptom might actually show up. That's why they say if you've been exposed to somebody who has COVID, usually wait until day 5 to get your test, unless you have a symptom. So that's kind of what the CDC is saying right now. When the spike protein, which is the problem child, so to speak, of COVID, the way it gets into your cells, it latches onto a particular receptor site, and that receptor site is called an ACE2 receptor, which again, you may have heard this. But now this is where it gets interesting, because ACE2, so the question is, well, where do you have ACE2 receptors, right? All over the body, it's not just in your lungs. And that's what makes COVID so stealth, because yes, you have ACE2 receptors in the lower portion of your lungs, right? So it makes sense you would have issues, you know, in the respiratory tract, moving into possible what they call COVID pneumonia. Now that is also fascinating. There's some research out there now that's showing that COVID pneumonia is actually tiny little blood clots. And there's some docs out there that are having real good results treating it with anticoagulants. So that was one of the approaches I took, and I'll go into that further, you know, as we move into this, the importance of keeping your blood, you know, thinner, because COVID likes to make clots, you know. Another really big place for the ACE2 receptors is the intestines. That's where you start having GI issues. Some folks have really bad diarrhea, but the issue with COVID, because of the amount of ACE2 receptors, so we know that the GI tract is going to get a little beat up. If you didn't have leaky gut before you have COVID, you will have it after. So it needs to be addressed. And one of the most important parts of dealing with this is what I call post-COVID treatment. You want to get your gut healed up and healthy again. Another place that there's ACE2 receptors are on your blood vessels. And that's why we're seeing clots. That's part of the reason we're seeing heart attacks and strokes. The other part is your brain, or your central nervous system. And this is where we're getting the loss of smell, the taste, the memory problems, the attention, the brain fog, and things along that line. So that's why COVID is so stealth, because there's so many different places where the ACE2 receptors are. Because of that, you get a multiple, I mean, I could have, the list of symptoms could have gone, you know, 3 slides deep, but these are the most common. Fever, mine lasted for about 6 days. CDC is saying when the fever breaks, 24 hours after that is when you're not contagious any longer. So that is a little bit newer than you have to stay in quarantine for 14 days. I chose to stay in quarantine for 14 days because I'm healthcare and I'm around people. So that's kind of something to just keep in the back. Shortness of breath, very, very common, because again, COVID likes that respiratory tract, right? Chills and shaking, that kind of comes along with your fever, nausea, vomiting, all of this, body aches, fatigue. Now, I will tell you that fatigue is not a strong enough word for what COVID fatigue is about. It feels quite disabling, and it is. It's very, very different. The reason it's very, very different is because the part of your body that makes energy is called mitochondria. Mitochondria are in your cells, and they make ATP. ATP is your energy product. You know, it produces energy. When you get a very high microbial load, and in this case, it's a viral load, and that viral load is so high, the mitochondria stop being a production factory, and they shut down, and they literally go into defense mode and protection. And so here you've got this massive war going on in your body with your white blood cells trying to get the virus, and your poor little mitochondria are like, no, I'm not making energy, you do it. So that's part of why the fatigue is just so disabling. A lot of this goes along with other things, sort of a convention. Loss of taste and smell, that is coming from the brain. It is very typical of COVID. It doesn't happen to everybody. I lost about, I'd say about 80% of my, some things I could taste and others I couldn't. Have that back. I've had no problems, but all in all, it is a pretty nasty bug. Not a fan, but it wasn't my cutest look, but very happy to have been on the other side of it. All right, so I wanted to address some statistics because and I hear this a lot from patients, is like, it sounds like the world is like dying, and is COVID nasty? Yes. Do we need to do something to protect ourselves, be healthy? Do we have to address it? Yes. Have we lost most of the population? No. Okay. This was as of September 4th, percentage-wise. When you look at the world, the amount of people in the world, 3% of the world has gotten COVID. And a little over 0.5% has died from it. The US, we've had, 39.9 million cases, 648,000 deaths. That's about 12% of the US has gotten it, and about 1/5 of 1% has died from it. Florida, now this is kind of interesting, because you'll see that the death rate percentage is identical. In Florida, we have 3.31 million cases, 46,324 deaths. So that equates to 15% of Florida has gotten COVID, but 1/5 of the percent has actually died from it. And it's like, it makes us look like we're the infectious capital of the world. But this is where you have to be careful with statistics. I actually like statistics a lot, but this is where you have to be cautious. The question is why? Well, we in Florida, from January to June, had 59 million tourists come through, right? We don't have this third quarter yet, but 59 million tourists came through. What happens when they get sick? Where do they go, right? They test here, they go to the hospitals here, and it most definitely will bring our numbers up. Now, does it bring our numbers up that much? I don't know. I don't have that information, but it is certainly something. So when you hear the statistics, just be aware there's, take a look at the information, okay, a little bit, very, very closely. Now, this is, I really like to look at trends, because I think the trends are where we need to make decisions on. This is new cases in Florida from when COVID started. You can see we've had a much bigger spike August and very early September-ish. You're seeing it's coming down. I would expect that. Number one, the kids are going back into school and the tourists are going home, right? So we don't have as many people coming through going into the hospitals. And so that makes sense to me. I would expect it to continue to go down a bit. I don't know where we're going to go as far as the rest of the country. Most folks are expecting to see this kind of a spike as winter comes in. For us, we all hide in in our houses in the summer. The rest of the world hides in their house in the winter, and that tends to make the cases rise. Now, when I look at over here, I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I'm going to move this so I can see it. This is what I don't like. The cases are going down, but the deaths are continuing to go up. So this is where I'm going, okay, this is why I'm doing this webinar, because my question is, how do you turn that trend around? Okay, I don't like that trend, so what can we do? Not everybody has the knowledge I have. And looking at the cases versus deaths, not everybody gets severe COVID, right? But we all know of people who have died of it. Unfortunately, it's tragic. This isn't a good time. But the question is, what can we do? How can we be empowered for our own health? So what I wanted to do is, not everybody's going to become a statistic, thank God, but I want to take a look at who would be the most likely to struggle with severe COVID and get hospitalized. And the information is clear across the board, absolutely clear across the board. Folks who are obese are at a much higher risk. People who are stressed out, oh my God, that's none of us, right? We live in America. Yes, getting stress under control is important. People who have underlying conditions, diabetes, kidney disease, COPD, et cetera, people with low vitamin D. Low vitamin D is associated with like 82% of the people who were hospitalized were D deficient, right? Can you do something about that? Yeah, there's certain things we can do something about, and that's really what I want to get across. I'm going to jump this one for a minute. Lack of exercise. Oh my gosh. I'll go through some stats. You'll be amazed. And people who have the Alzheimer's gene, APOE4, either one or two alleles, they are finding there is a genetic component to people who have a severe COVID reaction. So it's something to pay attention to. So when we think about obesity, right, they're talking about, especially in the midsection, where you would have more fat in your organs, right, more visceral fat, fatty liver, etc. There's a 22.53-fold increased ICU visit and 16.11-fold increase putting on a vent, right? When we all went into quarantine, the average weight gain, I think you may have heard of, the what is it, COVID-15 or quarantine 15 or something along that line. Actually, the average weight gain post the initial quarantine was 29 pounds. So the average person gained almost 30 pounds because they were in quarantine. They were eating more, exercising less. And this is not a solid number, because I got quite a few different ones, but this is the average that I was seeing, estimating that obesity in our country increased from 37.8% to 51.3%. That's huge. And what that does is that sets us up for more severe reactions, because if obesity increases, your chance of having a severe reaction, now's the time to take control of your health, right? Because you can do something about reducing that risk. Stress, high cortisol will absolutely drop your immune system. And that's what happened to me. I remember the day, right? I was in the office, I was seeing patients, so grateful I was masked. And I was having a very stressful morning. A very good friend of mine was sick, and I was calling, I was seeing a patient in between, calling her husband, going, is she okay? Da, da, da. And then I'd see my next patient. And then, so I was in this fight or flight, all morning. And at the end of my morning, I called, yes, she's fine. And I was just like, oh my God, thank you, Jesus. And I literally just started shaking. And I was like, my goodness, I just had that fight or flight response. And I thought, well, let me go get some lunch, and had lunch. And I came back into my office, and I was like, wow, I'm really tired. And if any of you have been in my office, I have a chiropractic table in here, and it's not comfortable. It doesn't even look comfortable. And I'm like, oh, that looks really good. I laid down on my table, and I thought, oh God, this is not me. And so I was like, my face feels a little hot. I went in, took my temperature. I'm like, I'm booking, I'm out of here. And it was that fast. It was that fast. What I believe happened to me, I do believe most of us are exposed, if not all of us. And if we keep our immune system up and we keep our risk factors down, I think a lot of us are fighting it off, in all honesty. Had my immune system not completely dumped, I don't know if I would have gotten it or not. Maybe, there's no answer, but that was my experience with it. So stress, underlying conditions, all of this, what does it have in common? Inflammation. It's just, we have to reduce inflammation. The Alzheimer's gene, there's 3 of them. There's APOE2, 3, and 4. 2 is the gold ticket. You will not get Alzheimer's. These are genetic markers. 3, kind of fair to midland. Good idea. It's a good idea for everybody. Most people have this. Eat healthy, exercise, right? APO4. If you have one allele, you absolutely have got to have a clean diet and do well. Be good to your body. If you have 2 alleles, you have a very, very high % chance of getting Alzheimer's. So that's the genetic component. But what they're finding is people who have one or two of these alleles are having a harder time with COVID, and they're having a harder time with long haulers. They're having a hard time with the memory and the attention and the brain fog and, you know, the whole scenario. So that we can't do anything about, but we can do something about all of this. Lack of exercise. 54% of Americans post-quarantine, our exercise rate wasn't great, but it reduced by 54%. And I'll tell you, I am a bit of an exercise bunny. I am, again, one of the things I was grateful for when I came out of it was the fact that I exercised, because I was following my O2. I had a pulse oximeter and I was following it. My normal O2 is between 99 and 100. And it would kind of want to drop down a little bit here. I think the lowest it went was maybe 95 or 94. I do breathing exercises. My normal resting pulse was 63. And this is what I found fascinating, because I could, like, pretty much, it would manage get my O2 around 97-ish, 98 was probably the average. But my pulse was like cranking at 97. And I'm like, that's the big difference from 63 resting pulse. But that's how brilliant the body is, because it's like, we got to get oxygen to the tissues. What do? Well, let's get the red blood cells out there. That's what carries the oxygen. So my heart's like just boom, boom, boom. And, you know, that was amazing. What happens though if you're not cardiovascularly fit? You know, are you going to have trouble getting oxygen to your tissues? Is that part of the reason why we're seeing people who need oxygen, right? So again, exercise, really, really good idea. There's, to be in all honesty, there's really not much that exercise can't help, to be honest with you. So can we do anything about most of these risk factors? Yeah, absolutely. So, you know, that said, this, I'm going to give you an approach to pre-exposure if you get tested positive and post-COVID. The approach to pre-exposure, okay, you have to boost your immune system, all right? If it has to go to battle, it needs ammunition, all right? You want to reduce your risk factors. We just talked about that. Regular exercise, maintain a healthy weight, increase your vitamin D, manage stress. The use of prophylactic treatments. I think this is important. There's a lot of studies right now confirming the use of ivermectin as a prophylactic treatment, and I'll talk more about that later. Don't use animal ivermectin. It's meant for animals. There is ivermectin for people. But there's a lot of really solid studies that are coming out now. Great website, you can write this down, is the FLCCC, I think it's .net. I have a slide later on, and I'll show that to you, but they have a lot of really good studies, and they're very, very supportive of ivermectin, as am I at this particular junction, based on what I've been reading. All right, so now is the time. You need to take control of your health. I'm going to go through several things that I do, okay? It's not just all supplements, and it's just, we'll start there, because first of all, we want to boost your immune system, right? You know, you can't control the virus, you can control the host, all right? So what do? And I'm just going to make this as just a little disclaimer. These are literally the protocols that I put together. Okay, I use several companies. They're all physician grade supplements. There's a lot of other companies out there that are great. There's a lot of other companies out there that aren't great. Not all supplements are created equal. You can find plenty where there's a lot of fillers, and there's I just read something where there was some information where there's lead and multivitamins. I'm thinking, oh my goodness. So I'm very particular about the groups I work with. DFH is my short acronym for Designs for Health. They're not the only ones I use. If you've got someone you like that's clean, go for it. I just can't hang my hat on you know, generic supplements that I just don't know about the quality. And what I did is I put together the doses based on the recommendation of the amount. So if you want to flip it out, have at it. This is just my my protocol, so to speak. So basic supplements, if you want to just be like, okay, what do I need to do? Okay, you need to take vitamin D, you need to take vitamin C, you need to take quercetin, you need to take zinc. Melatonin is a big surprise, but melatonin is interesting. It's an antioxidant and it's anti-inflammatory. Cleveland Clinic came out and said that it reduces the likelihood of contracting COVID by 28%. Pretty cool. The throat spray I was telling you about, spray your throat, spray your throat, spray your throat. Okay, we want to try to keep that as clear as we can. If any little booger gets on there, biocidin is it pulls the biofilm off of the different microbes, and it's that and silver psyllium, are the two that I'm recommending. Now, if you want to be, a little bit more hardcore, I've got my hardcore little bunnies out there, and then I've got others who are like, I want one pill. So this is for the more hardcore bunnies. Immune support packets, that's going to have a lot more in it. It's going to have C, it's going to have, but we need to do more C, so that's why it's still here. C and some quercetin. It has zinc, it's got NAC, which is great. It's got vitamin D, it's got green tea, echinacea, immune boosting mushrooms, and things along that line. So it's great to support your immune system. The other thing that I added here was from Biotics, Immuno-GGSBI. It will boost the immune system in your GI tract. And since COVID likes to get the GI tract, for me, it's something that is, and you can take it forever if you wanted to. It was safe. So this is the big dog. This is absolutely solid. It's just, what do you do to support, pre-exposure and get your immune system boosted? Now, for high-risk individuals or for people who want prophylactic support, we have a nurse practitioner here, and you may have a doctor or nurse practitioner that you deal with, and that's fine. But you would want to schedule an appointment with them and talk to them about ivermectin. Basically, for preventative reasons, okay, ivermectin, it goes according to your weight. You do one dose on day one, repeat in 48 hours, and then do one dose weekly. Okay, there was a study that came out of, I just heard it today, I believe it was Australia. Now, in that particular study, they're seeing a 100% reduction for people who are on ivermectin prophylactically. I don't know. I did not actually read it. I heard about it in a podcast I was listening to, but the folks that were talking were medical doctors and pretty high ups in research. So, I felt comfortable with it. If you get exposed to it, same thing, repeat in 48 hours, one dose on day one, repeat in 48 hours. Call Hannah, our nurse practitioner, and chat with her, and she'll kind of guide you through it if you do need that support. Now, nutrition and diet. I have to talk about it, right? Because your diet is the strongest, quote, medicine you have at your disposal. Okay, it can change things, it can fix what ails you, it can reduce inflammation, it can give your body fuel, but we need to give it what it needs. An anti-inflammatory diet is really key in this case, because if you have a high inflammation and then you get COVID, it's a bonfire. So you want to reduce the inflammation in your body. What's inflammatory? Well, sugar, grains. Dairy is interesting because we're about the only beings on the planet that drink another animal's milk. So proteins, veggies, nuts, eggs are actually fine unless you're sensitive to them. Lots and lots of veggies are your friends, but a good balanced diet is going to help you. All right, the other thing you can do, and this is something that our nurse practitioner does here, and there's other doctors out and about that do it. So if you are living somewhere and you're looking for, hey, where do I get that? It's called UV blood therapy, and it's amazing. I just finished a book on over 200 studies. This thing has been around for 50 or 60 years, and it's amazing. We brought it into the office. It's been helping a tremendous amount of patients that have multiple infections, and I'm having, because what it does is we take some of your very own blood and we run it under a UV light and then put it back in. And what happens is when it goes under the UV light, it absorbs, and the red blood cells absorb and they become super oxygenated. So they get lots of oxygen. That gets oxygen to the tissues, which helps with repair. In the case of COVID, of course, you like that because it helps with breathing. But for the white blood cells or the immune system part, it supercharges them and it helps them overcome. So you can actually prophylactically build up your immune system by doing UV therapy. All right, what else can you do? Get moving. We saw that exercise will help. Harvard Medical School did a study, and they basically said that people who are consistently inactive versus those who exercise, I think they said it was 2.5 hours a week, 150 minutes a week, having significantly higher risk of hospitalization and or death. The percentages were crazy. 120% more likely to be hospitalized if you don't exercise regularly, 110% more likely to need critical care, and 132% more likely to die if you are not someone who exercises regularly. And this, again, is what we're trying to avoid. We are trying to reduce that statistic. And so, again, I can't go on and on and on about how important it is. Get enough sleep. Your body repairs when you're sleeping. And this, you're going to see a couple times as we go through this. Getting a good air purifier, the estimate is that home air or air inside the home is 10 times to 100 times in some studies worse than the air outside. So get a good purifier. This one here, it gets rid of viral particles, mold particles. It's got a HEPA filter, it's got a UV light in it, and it uses ionization without throwing out a lot of ozone. So it was one, after I had COVID, I didn't want to let my hubby come into the bedroom until I knew everything was clear. He never did get it, which is awesome. And but that was one of the things that I really wanted to make sure that we cleaned up before. Okay, so basically, what can you do to support yourself? Boost your immune system, right? You can do that with supplements. You can do that with diet. If you need something prophylactically, talk to someone about ivermectin. There's UV blood therapy if you want to go down that route, anti-inflammatory diet, and move. Okay, so that's what you can do right now. And get in the sun, get some natural vitamin D too. All right, so now let's talk about, oh my gosh, what happens if you like me, found myself going, oh no, and you find yourself COVID positive. So the support that I was kind of pulling this together as I was in my bedroom because, well, I had a vented interest in getting better, but I was a little bored, but I was just like, okay, what do I need to know? What do I need to do now? And get on it now. Don't wait. COVID is not a cold. It is not a cold. It is a very stealth, very, very unusual bug, if you will. And so as I researched it, I realized, well, of course you need to take something that's antiviral, right? That makes sense. You absolutely have got to support your immune system stronger, okay? It's in a war and it needs ammo, okay? And it needs lots of it. Anticoagulants. This is, to reduce the likelihood of clots. Okay, COVID likes to make clots. It makes it in the lungs, it makes it in the vessels, and you don't want to have any issues. So anticoagulants, I did like vitamin E and curcumin and high dose vitamin C. We'll all do we'll do a fabulous job of thinning your blood. You want to manage and modulate the inflammation. The inflammatory cascade is called a cytokine storm, is very high, and you want to reduce it because you don't want to damage tissue. So this is the approach that I took, and there's quite a few things that that you can do. Okay, this is, as I mentioned, this is not just a bug. Don't just go to bed. We need to, it's not nice. We can't be nice either. Okay. So this is basic support. Now I did more than this. Okay. But this is basic support, what you need to know, what you need to do. If you notice, I have a couple of things in bold. This is very high dose. This is about 50,000 IUs of vitamin C. D. I don't know what that. I just got a thing came across. Okay, so this is about 50,000 IUs of vitamin D. This is about 200,000 IUs of vitamin A. Those are incredibly high doses. That's why you can do this for 3 days and then drop down to 2 drops. It was specific to not include K. When you're high dosing vitamin D and you're dealing with a bug that likes to make clots, I didn't think it was great to put K in there. Normally I do. And this one here, if you notice, is for 3 days on, and you can discontinue 3 days on, 1 day off until you know it broke, right? Stellar C, if your stool gets loose, reduce it, okay? Keep the quercetin, the zinc, the melatonin. We're adding oliverics, that's an antiviral. Keep the Biocidin throat spray. This nebulizer treatment, you want to get a nebulizer, and we're going to add glutathione and sterile saline. Now, the reason that we do that, glutathione is a master antioxidant, and for example, one molecule of vitamin C will get rid of 3 free radicals, right? For one molecule of vitamin E, it'll get rid of 5 free radicals. For one molecule of glutathione, it will get rid of 1 million molecules. Oh, that's your friend. Okay, so glutathione's your friend. Always felt better in getting it into here, so it's going to get rid of some of that oxidative stress that's trying to really, you do it 2 times a day, and it's, something that is definitely has got to be part of your care plan, not just your care plan, but your fighting. Now, I had Kendall do this, and this is just my little joke, because this is something I think most people should have on hand, right? So in case you get COVID. So this is just in case, right? Okay. So I'm sorry, I can't see you all, so I hope you're laughing, because I made myself very happy with that. So meet Justin. This is just in case. I hope you never have to use Justin, but nonetheless, there it is. So that is the basic, get on it. Okay, you've been diagnosed, hit it hard, hit it early. That's what you do. I also did this. Okay. This is your anticoagulant. This helps with inflammation. This is GI immune support. Throat sprays in there. I think it's in there twice. This is another antimicrobial. I was not playing nice with COVID. I was determined to beat him, her, whatever, and not be a statistic. This mops up the endotoxins. When the bugs die, they spew out a lot of toxins, and it kind of binds them so that it can't redistribute into the body, and you can just kind of let it go out. Vitality detox. I love these drops. They do the same thing as the GI detox, but in addition, they reduce viral replication. So if you've got ivermectin and you've got this, you've got two things that are, and quercetin actually does the same. You've got things that are reducing the viral's ability to push replication, which is what you want. You want to stop it from replicating. So I was taking a fistful of supplements. Am I glad I did it? Yeah, absolutely. There's no question. Now you will need, you may need some, again, call right away. If you are positive, talk to your healthcare professional, whoever they are. For us, we have our medical director, Hannah, and depending on each individual case, what do we recommend? We are supporting the use of ivermectin. It's got antiviral, anti-inflammatory properties. Do not use for animals, okay? It's different for humans. But the mechanism of action is this does help reduce the virus's ability to replicate. Just know that this is not FDA approved for COVID. It is FDA approved for other issues, and I'll talk about the efficacy of it on the next slide. Albuterol is used for asthma. I did have one. I used it a little bit. What it does is it keeps the bronchial areas open. So if you're having a little trouble with shortness of breath, it will help. A Z-Pak. I'm not a fan unless you have to have it. If you have to have it, that's why there is medication. If necessary, at high risk, that would be stay close in contact with your practitioner. Monoclonal antibodies, I think at this stage in the game, everybody is agreeing that the monoclonal antibodies are the way to go. I don't think there's a lot of discrepancy about that. It's typically an infusion that you're going to get. And what it is it's basically, it's made by cloning a certain white blood cell, and they produce it, mass produce it laboratory wise, and it's produced to recognize the spike protein. And basically what it does is it targets it and it interferes with its ability to get into the cell. Therefore, it effectively reduces the virus's ability to replicate. And that's pretty much how you attack a virus, if you will, is you stop its ability to replicate. I did get it. Now, right away, if you're diagnosed that day, you get your supplements, you get an appointment with somebody who can get you ivermectin if you don't have it, and you make an appointment to get monoclonal antibodies. Absolutely. Now, my reaction with it was interesting. That was probably the one night that was difficult for me. I got it. It was a very long day out. I went to Guidewell and went home, and I was like, oh, wasn't feeling great, laid down, and I felt like there was an absolute war zone going on in my body. And I was sweating and just slept like a rock, and woke up and went, cool. And fever broke just like that. So some people it takes a few days. For me, it was almost immediate. Got the antibodies. It was like next day, boom, that was it. And then I knew, okay, now I'm going to go ahead and start repairing. I'm over this monkey. But there's multiple locations. Probably just have to Google and find out, some place that's close to you. What you'll need to get it is a proof of a positive COVID test and some type of referral from PCP, or if you go to Guidewell, they just use their doctor there, as someone who's giving you a referral. This has been FDA granted emergency use authorization. So this one has been granted the FDA approval, so to speak, for emergencies. This has not. All right, so what is the efficacy of ivermectin? Ivermectin, basically it's antiviral, anti-inflammatory. Studies report that it reduces the risk of contracting COVID. It shortens the recovery time should you get it, and it reduces hospitalizations and death. This is the group I was telling you about, and I believe their website is flccc.net. but they're the Frontline COVID Critical Care Alliance. They've got a lot of really good information on their website, so get on it, check it out. But everything that we're seeing, we feel comfortable, standing behind. All right, so now that you've got your supplements, you've got, you're there, monitor your vitals. Okay, we need to know that you're okay. If you don't have a pulse ox, you can get one on Amazon. I mean, you could buy anything on Amazon now. I wonder if you buy a horse on Amazon. I don't know. That would be interesting to try. Anyway, I digress. Okay, so temperature. Everyone's normal is a little bit different. Once that fever breaks, that's a good sign. Okay, 24 hours after that, CDC says you're not contagious anymore. O2. Just look at this number. If it gets below 92, seek medical attention. Okay, now know that you can do breathing exercises and that should help bring it up. Okay, so do breathing exercises, but this is the number to be, to be paid attention to. Okay, pulse. For me, my normal pulse is 63. It got up to about 97. I'm like, whoa, dude, okay. But I knew things were working. But if you are starting to crank at 100 or 110 or whatever, again, you need to call your medical professional. Your blood pressure might go higher, might go lower. That is just going to be different for each person. You will probably lose weight. You're not going to want to eat much, but the most important thing to do is stay hydrated. Okay, you absolutely have got to keep the fluids going in your body for sure. And so in the way that we stay hydrated, monitor the color of your urine. Honestly, if it's dark, then increase the fluid. It should be a pale straw color. If it's colorless, you're drinking too much, you're going to imbalance electrolytes. So back off. So that's just a kind of a rule of thumb. Again, the diet is something that I have talked about: reduce sugar, dairy, and grains. Eliminate processed foods. Food might not taste good, or you might have, for me, it was weird. Almond butter is terrible when you can't taste it. It's just this gooey thing in your mouth. And I was just like, oh, that's not working. But I would have run you down for a Granny Smith apple because that tasted really good. My hubby rocks, he called it COVID kitchen, and he was making sure that I was getting healthy food. And I mean, we had chia seed pudding with berries, and I mean, it was like, it was amazing. So y'all can call him and get recipes. All right, this is what a nebulizer looks like. And you do the treatment with glutathione, as I mentioned. You want to do that twice a day. Very, very important. All right, the other thing you can do, these are kind of just miscellaneous things. You want to keep your lung fields moving, right? You're going to want to be laying down, get up, do the breathing exercises. And if you have one of those massage chairs that has the percussion on it, do that on the back. Okay, you need percussion on your back. You can do percussion here. You can get a massage, one of those little massage things, and you want to keep the lung fields moving. Okay, so breathing exercises do that. Getting in the sun, that's going to get you some more vitamin D. Epsom salt bath will help replace the minerals that you're losing. And again, we go back to the air purifier. All right, so to recap, what did we do? If God forbid you were tested positive, take your supplements, right? So we're addressing all the different parts of, the inflammation, COVID, anticoagulants, etc. Medical support, ivermectin, if you need albuterol, anything along that line. Monoclonal antibodies are really, really good. Monitor your vitals, eat healthy, drink enough water, okay, and do your nebulizer treatment, okay? So that is just an overview for that. But now you're on the other side, okay? This is the big mistake I think people make, is they stop treating because they're like, okay, I'm done, I'll just recover. And I've talked to countless people 6 and 8 months later that are still like, yeah, I'm still really fatigued, and don't get it. But let's think about it, okay? So if we look at the numbers of people and we go 6 months later, fatigue, 80% of people right now are still reporting fatigue after COVID. mitochondria have just shut down, and you've got to support them, and you got to make more. And again, this is fatigue, post-exertional malaise, cognitive dysfunction. I don't like that. Okay, that's the memory issues and the attention and the focus and the brain fog. 58% of people are still having trouble with that 6 months later. Sensorimotory, that mostly has to do with the still having problems with taste and smell and things along that line. Headaches are common as well. So why, after it's done, do people still have issues with COVID? Well, the biggest theory is actually here, number 2. The biggest theory is that you've got these, they call them ghost fragments, which are kind of like little residual COVID molecules, if you will, that keep your immune system kind of stimulated, this like low grade, it just kind of keeps going. And that may continue to dampen the mitochondria and keep them in that hidden position, that defense position, as opposed to. So the mitochondria at this point needs some love, okay? And that's where I really went with most of my support, my supplemental support. It definitely will do. Any infection will reduce your energy level, but this one in particular tends to really do a big job. So what's the problem? Okay, you're just going to be tired for a while and you'll be better. Well, the problem is the longer you have a COVID immune response, the more likely that other conditions might develop. That's a problem, because there are COVID associated issues with respiratory. That makes sense, right? But things like fibrosis or fibrosis in the lungs, like, who needs that? We don't need that. Cardiovascular issues. I have a friend of mine who got COVID and several months later had a heart attack, and this is somebody who's younger. She made it, which is great, but again, we're seeing a lot of these post-associated issues. GI tract, as I mentioned, we need to pay attention to healing that up. That's real important. 80% of your immune system is in your gut. Memory and brain, so many people having issues, and that all falls into that central nervous system. And, what part of here has been inflamed and got damaged. Kidneys, are another issue. That those are the biggies that people are seeing with the post-COVID. So what do you do to mitigate that risk? Okay, that was my next question. As I went through this whole thing, I was like, I don't want post-COVID. I've got several patients that I'm dealing with and it's not fun. What do I need to do? And so what I did went, well, if you didn't have leaky gut before, you'll have it after. Support gut health, okay? Mitochondria, nothing works without energy. It's like if you don't put gas in your car and you get in and you put your foot on the gas pedal, you're not going anywhere, okay? Same thing here. Nothing works without energy. And if your mitochondria are not producing the energy, then nothing's going to work, right? Immune support, okay? If you've got this low grade something at all times, you've got to keep feeding your immune system, keep giving it the ammo it needs to finish this job out. And you will know when you're done. I mean, you'll feel just as good, and in my case, better than I did when I started. So detoxification, we need to be able to get the garbage out, okay? It's been a little bit of a war zone. We got to clean things up, and we got to keep managing, the inflammation. So what do we do? Mitochondria power, okay? Immune support packets, stay on those. I did, now this is basic, and yes, you know me, I did this too, okay? I've got 4 different mitochondrial supports. Love it, love it, love it, love it, okay? If you need energy in your life, it's the way to go, okay? GI Revive helps your gut, helps it heal up, and Probiomed is a probiotic, right? So that's going to be great. Down here, this is going to help your immune system in your gut. This is about inflammation, and this is about, and the paleo cleanse is about the detox, getting this stuff out, right? All right, looking at our diet, eat for your health, same thing, okay? Now, when you have brain problems, post-COVID, all right, when you have brain problems, once you lose neurons, you don't get those back, but you can make more connections, and you need something called brain-derived neurotrophic factor. And how do you increase that? You should ask, I will tell you. Intermittent fasting. Intermittent fasting will help that, okay? The other thing that will help it is exercise, okay? So, and of course, eating a healthy diet, right? All right, immune support. These are some of the therapies you can use. Again, UV blood therapy. Don't come in the office if you actually have active COVID. We don't see active COVID patients here, but once you are not contagious any longer, we can help you out. Consider some IV therapy. K-laser therapy is so amazing because it's an electromagnetic energy transfer. So we can put the K-laser in the areas of the brain that you might be having trouble, and the thoracic and the neck, you know, that will help you. Neurofeedback, that helps address the anxiety, memory, attention, brain fog, sleep issues, you know, pretty much like the brain-derived neurotrophic factor has as well. Getting rid of the stuff, detox, exercise, start slowly. You got to come back slow, little by little by little by little. Doing body brushing before your shower, you just brush everything towards your heart. That gets your lymphatics moving. Exercise, get your lymphatics moving. Infrared sauna literally vibrates the cells at a particular frequency where it lets toxins go. I am a big fan of it. And, you know, and again, the purifier, get enough sleep. So here's the review. Pre-exposure, implement a healthy diet, right? You want to reduce your risk. Exercise, immune support, reduce your stress, get in the sun, right? If you're COVID positive, immune support, antivirals, anticoagulants, anti-inflammatories. If after you break it, and you know, the post-COVID support, just FYI, that can be anywhere from 2 weeks to 3 months. It just depends on you, right, and how well you do. So for me, it took about 2 weeks, and I'm, you know, just back to my normal little self. But mitochondrial support is a big part of that. Immune support, GI health, anti-inflammatory, and detox. So, all right, everybody, it was wonderful. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed presenting this to you. If you like me doing these kind of things, shoot a email to Kendall, and Kendall, you're like, oh no, I'm going to get a lot. You know, and just let me know what kind of topic that you might be interested in, because I really enjoy doing this very much. Again, information is power, and if we can, you know, learn from each other and grow, we can help regain and maintain our health, right? All right. Anyway, you guys have an awesome night, and I will be around. If you have any questions, just shoot the office an email, and I promise I'll get back to y'all. Okay. All right. God bless you. Good night.